Hey everybody, welcome to the See You on the Trail podcast. My name's Alan, or Hitch, as everybody knows me as, and with me, as usual, is Seth Brown, our co-host.
Hello, everybody.
We do have an extra person today with us. As you can tell, he brought us a little trophy. If anybody knows whose number that is, let's go ahead and introduce him from Tahlequah, Oklahoma, Mr. Mick Henson. How's it going on?
It's going good.
Good
Glad
deal.
to be here.
Good deal. Well, let's just start out from the beginning, man. State your name again and where you're from, and tell us about your growing up and how you got into off-roading.
Okay, so my name is Mick Henson. I'm from Tahlequah, Oklahoma, which is, for you racer guys, it's 45 minutes from Jay, hour from Disney. I've been trail wheeling and stuff like that for probably 15, 16 years. I got into off-road stuff when I was 15-ish, turning 16, get my license, got a Toyota pickup, piece of junk, worked on it a lot, tore it up, learned a lot, and it just snowballed from there. And, I just stayed with Toyota from then till now, and that's what I got now. And that's what I plan to stay with.
Is it the same truck you're racing now?
It's not the same truck.
Okay.
I still have the first one was a rust bucket, so I ended up scrapping it.
Okay.
So and then I bought a 4Runner. It was an 88 pickup, and then I bought an 87 4Runner. I still have the 4Runner, and that's my daily driver that I never drive, but
okay.
Gotcha.
I still have it. Yeah.
Very cool. Now, you're in Tahlequah. What do you do for a living?
So I own my own shop. I work on and build Toyotas.
What's the name of it?
There's no name. It's just my shop. And,
Okay.
we just kind of hide out in the woods and work on Toyotas. So
Is that what you do full time?
yeah, full
Okay.
time.
Very, very cool. Well, let's see what else here. We're looking at our notes as always. And you already talked about how long you've been wheeling, and then how long you've been following Ultra 4 before you got into it and actually went hot and heavy into it.
So with Ultra 4, I basically seen it on Pirate and stuff. You'd see King of the Hammers, and you see the cool pictures and Ultra 4 cars and all that stuff. And I always had an eye to want to go to King of the Hammers. And I think it was, I want to say 2016 or 17, I basically ran into a buddy. He wasn't a buddy yet. It was the first time I met him, and was like, hey, like we were just BSing. And I was like, man, I've always wanted to go to King of the Hammers, because him and his buddy, they had a 4400 car, Jimmy's car. And he's like, well, you can go with us. And so 3 days later, I was loading up in the truck with the other guy I'd never even met, rolling out the Hammers. So
Sounds awfully familiar.
yeah, I've heard that story too. And I thought I was crazy when I did it. I remember I was so scared. I was like, where am I going to sleep? What am I going to eat? And I was just like, screw it, let's go.
Mhm.
Yeah. Who'd you go with?
So it was Chad Bartley was the guy I met. And I ended up going with David Fox.
Okay.
And then Chad flew out later, and I met Dave's whole group of guys, and them together, they're hired gun off road.
Okay.
So I went with them, and I basically there was 3 of us in the truck, and we just took turns buying gas. And when we got to Yucca Valley, we went to Walmart like everybody does, and just loaded up on food, and went out there and stayed in a trailer with no electric, no water, no nothing, and froze to death for a week.
Yeah, I always talk about it. Everybody, they say it's cold here and blah, blah, blah. Well, at least it stays cold here. What it does in Johnson Valley is it starts out at about 20 degrees in the morning. We draw straws to see who's going to go start the generator. And then you get to about noon, and you're taking off all of your layers.
Oh, yeah.
And then you just might as well keep them in a backpack, because you're going to be putting them on later at night.
Mhm.
And then the obvious one sandstorm every KOH years.
Oh,
At least a sandstorm.
Yeah, at least.
Sometimes it's more. You might wake up with some snow on the ground, or I don't even think it was a sandstorm. There was a bad windstorm last time I was there, and everybody wasn't just our pit. They were winching their winch lines and ratchet straps to their race cars to keep their big circus tents from just blowing away.
Mhm.
What was the one year that they told everybody not to come into Hammertown on the scheduled time because it was so muddy? People were getting people were getting stuck.
Was that when
Was it 18 maybe?
the dry lick bed was almost not a dry lick bed?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it took, with all the wind and the cold, and it didn't take long for it to dry out, but it was a muddy mess.
Oh yeah.
But so what was your first King of the Hammers was 17?
Yeah.
And then what was your thoughts on it? I mean, you come home, as you're driving home, you got that 19, 20-hour drive.
Oh yeah. So when I left the Hammers, right before the year of that Hammers, I had like parted out my rock crawler Toyota, and it had, all the good stuff. It was like the best built truck I'd ever built. And I basically popped off and named a price on something. And then next thing I knew, it was in 1,000 pieces.
Oh, shit.
So I had started building a tube chassis buggy, and it was just going to be a trail buggy. And it was going to have coilovers front and rear, 4 links,
Was it your own chassis design?
Yeah,
Okay.
I designed the whole chassis, and I had basically just got the cab built, and the rear suspension was there, and it was on my little table. And so then I go to Hammers, and then I'm coming back, and I'm like, dude, like that thing is like a slate right there at home where I can just finish this up, and it can be a trail buggy that I can maybe race one day.
Yeah.
And so basically from then I worked and worked and worked on it and threw as much money as I could at it for a long time. And years go by, and I decided that, well, I'm going to buy a trail rig. Like, I'm just going to give me a little Toyota Beater so I can go out on the trails with my buddies. Like, I just miss going. I go take my 4Runner to Disney. It's capable, but I don't want to beat it up and have fun in it. So I was like, I'm going to buy a beater. So that's where the tan truck came from.
Okay.
I bought it as a trail beater, and it ended up as a race truck. Yeah.
it runs. It's good.
But yeah, after Hammers, the first year of Hammers, I had the bug. Like, I want to try to race, but to me, it was absolutely just completely unaffordable in my mind. Like, I didn't think it was possible, but I was like, well, I can build a buggy, and then like maybe I can save up for a year and go to one race, you know. But
makes sense.
I ended up selling the buggy to put more money into the tan truck. So it kind of went full circle.
Did you ever actually get it to where it was only a trail rig, the tan truck, or did it transition before you even?
Yeah, so I actually basically the only thing different between then and now is like I had some 37s on it. Like, I built it out of complete leftover parts.
Okay.
I bought the truck. It was running and driving. It had dual cases in it. It was like, that was it.
Was it? Did that truck come? Or I guess it would have to. It came solid axle, right?
Yeah, it's factory solid axle. So it was 100% stock. Like, the suspension was 100% stock. And the guy put 35s on it and welded it front and rear. And like, that's how I bought it. But it had a propane kit on it, and it had dual cases. And I was
it the GOT propane kit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And I raced with that for a little bit too.
Okay.
And but yeah, so basically I just like went out to my leftover parts shed, and I got some Chevy 63 springs, which are still on the truck. I took the rears from the back, put them in the front, and kind of added some things to it. And I had a pair of like Fox 2.0 shocks that I put on the front. The rear was bone stock shocks.
Really? Like twin tube or?
No, they were like O'Reilly's, like cheap silver, like they were rusted. I don't even know what they were. And I wish I still had them, because I went and raced nationals with them. And like, you could turn it like this and the shaft would fall, and you turn it this way and it'd fall out. Like, after the race, they were just blown out.
I remember your first Buzz of the Red Dog. There was a guy that built for the stock class. He built a kind of a junkyard Grand Cherokee, Jay Spivey.
Yeah.
And he kind of had this formula in his head, and he put some like off the shelf Bilsteins on there. And at Buzzard Canyon, he came back, and I remember the shocks were so hot you couldn't touch them. I think he to show me how hot they were, he took a bottle of water and sprayed it on there, and it just went to steam.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just the bottom dollar, like small diameter Bilsteins.
Oh, yeah.
So I can only imagine. Like, if you had those on there for any period of time racing, they're just trash.
There was the reason I found out how bad the suspension was on the truck and decided to go ahead and buy some King shocks was John Dykes posted a GoPro video of him and John Schaefer passing me, and my truck was just the rear was just bouncy, it was crazy. So I was like, man, like I didn't no wonder it feels like this truck's out of control all the time. Like it's just a pogo stick bouncing down the trail.
Right. Yeah, no joke. Now, you okay? What kind of axles are you running? Stock axles?
So they're Toyota 8-inch axles. So that's like the stock platform. The front is now a diamond axle housing, custom front housing with billet knuckleballs. And basically, other than the housing, it's very well stock. It's got 529 gears in the locker in it. And RCV axle shafts. It does.
Is the rear axle still the factory?
The rear axle was bone stock at Nationals, and I bent it at Nationals. So it's now I'm going. What I'm doing right now is I just trust another stock housing, and I'm just putting a stock housing. It's stock housing, stock shafts, stock size third member with 529s and a spool. Yeah. I put disc brakes on it, but other than that, it's.
Now that one you said is it propane injected? Is it still?
It's not anymore.
Okay.
So it was propane when I first started racing with it, and that just I couldn't really ever figure out how far I could go on a propane tank.
Mm-hmm.
It was always just like randomly dying, and we'd switch tanks and drive off. And then that one would run out, and then I'd switch back to the other tank and then drive off. So it was like really weird.
Well, a propane tank doesn't really have a fuel level gauge on it. Like most people run the forklift tanks, and like they do have a little dial on it, but if you lay them down, I don't think it really works. And then even when stood up, like it's more of a guess. It's not exact, and of course, depending on the temperature of the tank, changes everything.
Little faster at Fast Lube that I used to work at up in Branson. We filled propane tanks, and we didn't go off the gauge at all. We always went off of weight.
Oh yeah.
That's
how they always fill them.
It's by weight. Like a big tank, I think they've got a gauge, but those is by weight. And my brother, his rock crawler that he used to have, that I'm still working on. Somebody else has it, and it's still on propane. When you go to fill up those tanks, at least around here, most places aren't by the gallon or whatever. It's per tank. So if you're half full on propane, you're still paying the same amount to get it filled up as if it was completely empty, which kind of stinks.
It took me a long time to find the local propane place that only charged for the half a tank, because there for a while it was expensive to go fill 6-7 tanks to go to a race with, because like you go pre-run, use a tank, and then qualify, and you'd use a little bit of a tank, and you'd be like, well, I want 2 brand spanking new tanks on a roll.
So that's your backup.
Yeah. So like you'd go through 4 tanks no matter what.
Wow.
And then one time I sent a tank to pit and had to switch it.
And that's not a fast process either.
No.
It depended on your setup, but I mean, it's not like putting in a quick fuel. Like a redhead on there and dumping 10 gallons in like a minute. I mean, it's probably, depending on your setup, at least 5 minutes to swap a tank out. And then you're probably still like, did I get that strap latched right? Did I get that screwed on right?
Especially when I just like gave the tank to some buddies and was like, I might come in. And then I pull in, I'm like, I need a tank, and they're like, have never changed a propane tank on a Toyota truck in their life.
It's just like your grill, okay?
Flop those things and turn the knob. It won't spray out. You're good.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
We can edit that.
Turn the knob.
I guess it's not. We aren't really rated, so I guess we're good.
We didn't curse.
Yeah, that's true. Now you say, speaking of, talking about racing and stuff. When was your first race for? I guess your first race period.
So my first race period was when Pro Rock, Mid-America was like just kind of really coming around, and they had a bunch of side-by-side stuff, and they had a couple rock bouncer things. And then the Pro Rock came, Joey Beck, and he did an endurance race there. And there was the stock class was there, and I'd seen it a couple months out, and I was like, oh man, like that little Toyota like fits right in these rules. Like, all I need is window nets, rear lights, and I had to change belts because I bought some cheap ones that didn't have a date on them. So like I did like 3 things and it was ready to go.
And when was that?
That was sometime around, so I've been racing roughly 2 years. So it was like sometime in that
1920 era.
1920?
Well, I mean, 2019,
yeah,
2020.
I was like, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it's sometime in that like year. My first year was for Ultra 4 was at Nationals at the very end of the year. So
down there in Davis.
Down there at Davis. And I think that was the 3rd race down there. Yeah. I think Well, no. So I raced there twice. So it had to have been the second or third.
That might have been the
I don't
year
remember.
that you had that motorhome down there that I stayed at.
Yeah, I stayed at 2 times. I had 2 different.
It
motorhomes
didn't
down
rain
there.
and there was no tornado, so it was that year.
Yeah, and that was. I think that was the year that Levi
That's saying
Shirley came
something.
from the back of the pack and almost beat Lauren.
Yes, he.
in the
It was the
44.
year after that.
Okay, it was the year after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I remember standing on the finish line with Derek West because I was there with
Okay.
him, and we were just all sweating because he was like, Levi's still out there somewhere. Like,
And he was on
yeah,
a
we're
mission.
just like, oh,
Well,
yeah.
and that's because he rolled during qualifying and actually hurt the chassis, right? And they had to
Yeah.
repair it in the pits.
Yeah.
yes. Well,
Yeah,
you know why he rolled?
He hit the tire.
No. What happened was he has paddle shifting.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, somebody walked up to Brian Shirley, his dad, and said, "Hey, can you pull this? Tell me what kind of part this is. I want to do this."
Yeah. Okay.
And Brian goes, "Sure, no big deal." He pulls it apart. They find the part number. He sticks it back in backwards.
Oh,
He didn't
no.
realize he was upshifting instead of downshifting,
Yeah.
vice versa, and that's why he couldn't pull out of that roll.
Wow.
And so he told that on his Snapchat or something.
Yeah.
So,
Dang.
but anyway, so that your first race was at Mid America, and then you started with Ultra 4
Yeah.
at Nationals,
Yeah.
and probably 20. I'm going to say,
Yeah.
I
I think
believe.
it was 20.
And then how many races did you do with them the next season?
The next season, I think I did 3 or 4 races.
East Coast.
Yeah, I did. The next year, I did. Well, then I really didn't pay attention. I didn't really.
Mm-hmm. You were just hitting
do
what you
East West.
could.
So I went to Rush, and that's I got third there, and that was like a Pro Rock Ultra 4 mix up. So like I kind of like got in on both of them. I was wanting to race both of those series for the year, so I was like made my deal. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get Ultra 4 points and Pro Rock points at the same race. So I was like, sweet. So I'm going to do that, and I went and did that. And that place was that's the kind of racing I like. It's like long and rough and muddy and don't mess up. Like just take your time and be good. But I did that, and then I went to Sturgis that year. That was the first year of Sturgis. I went to Sturgis, and then I think I did Nationals again, and I think that was it for that.
Okay,
year.
and then that pulls us into the 2022 season, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That's what we're looking at right there.
Yeah.
Yep. There.
Yep. Okay, cool. And so what we're looking at is the 2022 national point standings, and if we look at it, you're number 11, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then
11th.
But you're also the highest without KOH points.
Yeah.
Right.
We right before we started filming, he was looking at it. He goes, "Oh, I'm the highest person in points that doesn't have KOH points," and
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a big deal. I mean, you got 10 people ahead of you that all race KOH.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't, and you still finished like there's only a handful down to 33. There's 2 other people down to the 33rd place that didn't run KOH. So I think that's, if nothing else, I mean, that's kind of a pat yourself on the back kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, we'll go on to the next race, which is what was the next one?
The next one would have been the 918, but it's not on
Yeah.
there.
That's right.
And that's the one, where it snowed at Mid-America.
And how'd you do with that one?
And so at that race, I won that race, and it was a muddy, snowy, cold.
Yeah.
It was a blast. That was a good race course. I would love to do something just like that again.
I think Chip went on record saying that was his favorite race of all.
Yeah.
Yeah, we heard him say
Yeah,
that.
it was like just hard enough that you could really mess up, but it was a lot of laps, and I really liked that. It was like a pretty easy track, but it was a lot of laps, and I really liked that.
So did you run that race instead of running KOH?
That's kind of what I had planned on. That's kind of how I justified it. I couldn't really like go full blown into KOH, and really I know better, and I know the truck really wasn't ready for something like that yet. It's getting closer to where I would want to take it and do I feel like Hammers is really tough. Better have everything ducks in a row, and the truck's kind of it's a good truck, but I haven't got everything dialed perfect yet.
Yeah, I would definitely think that going to KOH with a vehicle that you're not 100% confident in, like you could do it, but the whole time you're probably holding back.
Oh yeah.
You could do it, but you're holding back. So why not get some more seat time and feel more confident.
But this 2020 season, I was going to go in and do the Mid America Series.
Yes,
the AOE.
Yeah,
and I was going to do that, and that after Hammers, that all changed.
Yeah, and it was I think a week before the 918 Grand Prix
when it really close.
When it really came out that Ultra 4 and Mid America are now one and the same,
right?
And everything changed. So, which I'm assuming your plans were like, oh, well, I'll go run it, but I guess it's no points.
Yeah.
Now. So, you didn't run Moab, which would have been the next race after that.
I went to Moab, but I didn't race.
Okay. And you didn't run Rush.
I missed Rush. I'm not sure what had happened. Oh, I think I had tore the truck up a little bit too much at
918.
The 918.
Were you hitting trees, or you didn't get the skis on it right for the snow?
I'm trying to remember. Sometime in this year, I put a motor in that truck twice, so I don't remember which one it was.
Now, speaking of engine, so stock class is stock engine that came in any version of that vehicle, that model year, right? So that truck only came with the
22R.
Yeah.
It could have come with like a weird diesel motor, but they're so rare, like it's impossible.
So internally is what pretty stock?
Yeah.
Or is it like a stock wink?
Yeah. I mean, it's the right amount of stock in my opinion.
Okay.
Like the bottom end is basically stock. It's got like some different pistons that have better, like back then they had these really thick tractor piston rings that just burn up real easy. Okay. So I got like a newer style piston with better rings. So it's a little bit tougher. Upgraded timing stuff, basically all the things that was wrong with that motor to begin with.
Okay.
And then I capped it all off with just putting a really big head on it.
Okay.
And a big cam. And that's basically it.
And fuel, not propane now, but are you fuel injected?
I went to fuel injection. Yeah.
What kind of fuel injection?
It's just stock fuel injection.
Okay. Yeah. Is it tunable?
It's adjustable.
Okay.
I'd say that, but no, I do have an air fuel ratio gauge on it. So
thank goodness for that.
Because you can't plug a scanner into it. It's 80s technology.
It's OB do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, but yeah, it's adjustable, and I've fine tuned it in and here and there, and actually spent a lot of time doing that. So
could you go in and would it be worth to put like a Holley ECU or anything on it?
I thought about it, but really, like right now, I have like spare everything.
Okay.
So like I have all these Toyota parts. So like I went and so when we talk about me modifying this thing, I go out into my shed and I get Toyota fuel injection and put it on. It costs $0.
True.
So like,
if you need spares, you know exactly where to go.
I need spares. Here's the spares.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So like everything on the truck is literally like what I choose to do is based on budget. So like when I went from propane, mostly just because you couldn't tell how much fuel was in it. And it was doing this weird thing. One time we took it out in the cold and I tried to just do some snow wheeling, I guess. And the tank just like froze.
Yeah.
And then you couldn't drive anymore.
Yep.
And so you had to sit there until they thawed out. And that sucked because it was cold. And I was like, I just need to just do fuel injection. So I literally bought a fuel cell and put fuel injection on it. That's all I had to do was buy the fuel cell.
That's one thing I often notice. One of the reasons I'm in front of a camera or behind it is because I can't afford to do any of the racing.
Yeah.
I'm always curious how those guys afford. I mean, especially the big boys, the 4400.
Oh, yeah.
But still, even just fuel costs to do East or West or both series KOH is astronomical. It's crazy.
The first year I went to Hammers, like I was like, the money I paid for gas was like a lot of money to me. It was like $600 in gas.
Well,
like,
and it's not the fuel that you're paying for to run the actual race.
Right.
It's to and from the race.
Just
that
to
is
and
the
back
cost.
to the race. Yeah. And like,
I always joked like, man, if Loves would like when Aaron Peters was going out there, we were out there, and I think I said the same thing to Chris Summers. It's like, man, if you could get Loves to sponsor you and put it all over the car, and then you could do a video like every time you stopped at a Loves, or like a little, hey, we're on our way a little bit. That was before all the video stuff is as big as it is now, like on TikToks and stuff. But man, if you get a sponsor like that, you would be set.
Oh yeah,
that would
just a fuel card.
Oh yeah,
give me a fuel card.
Just give me a fuel card, and I will stop and I will give a shout out, and I'll do an hour 4-hour like meet and greet at every single stop. We'll roll the car out, and like I'll leave a day earlier to do it because it would be worth it.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then to see some of those guys like Gomez brothers, Lauren Healy, Jason Shearer, Vaughn Gittin, for instance, how they're able to carry, they got the semi, they got the motorhome, they have all the support crew, they have all that. And, I mean, even Rufus Racing, same way.
Yeah.
They're ridiculous. It takes an army to do it, too.
Yeah.
I think that's the way Rufus does most of their racing is they rely on their friends more than anything,
Yeah.
which is what makes that team so tight.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
even then, you still got to feed everybody. When you're there, your food, drinks, lodging, like all those logistics, and even for like you, are you going to you're going to KOH this year? So like, what are you looking at? And yes, we'll get back to the points. All right, so we kind of. We're on a tangent here. What are you looking at besides you, additional people that you're going to have there for you?
So whenever I was like, okay, like I'm going to quit playing around, I'm going to race hammers. So right here after KOH or before KOH, me and Justin Reese were kind of talking and becoming good friends. And at KOH, I was with another team, but I went out, talked to him, met him, seen his truck, never even seen his truck, so did all that. And then at KOH, he basically broke the rear shock mount, and it basically destroyed the frame. Like, it ripped these ginormous holes in the frame. And so he was like, hey, if you come out and fix this before Moab, I'll give you a set of wheels and tires. And I'm like,
okay,
hell yeah. Because my truck was steel wheels, used tires off Craig's, off Facebook. Nice. Steel wheels that I had on the first Toyota I bought. I kept those wheels off of that and put them in my shed, and they ended up on the tan truck with some used BFGs on it. And I'm talking, I took a tire groover and put tread in. I'm like, that's how I roll. It's just on budget level. And so I did that. And so me and him, I went out there, fixed his frame, and went with him to Moab, and we become good friends. And somewhere in the middle there, and I decided I was going to race hammers. I was like, hey, like, I know you're not going to race 4,600 because you're going to 4,800. Like, if I come out there and race, can I like get a spot in your pit? Like, can I be part of your crew? Because when I go to race, it's me, my girlfriend, and my kid, and like that's it. Like, we got friends there, and I can run around and ask people to help, but we usually just do our own thing.
1K, it's a whole different animal with remote pits and all that.
And I drive by myself. I usually don't have a co-driver and all that. I usually just do it all by myself. And I don't mind that because it's just kind of how I am. But hammers, that's just not a thing. You can't do it by yourself. You're gonna have to have you got to have somebody in the pits just for fuel. Best case scenario, you still got to have somebody there to put fuel in you. Even if you don't break nothing, no flats, no nothing. Somebody's still got to put fuel in. So I talked to them, and he was like, oh, yeah. He's like, I got you. No problem. And I was like, hell yeah. Because he's got, 75 crew members. Like, he's a big, ginormous family. And I was like, awesome. So basically joining up with them and to go on a whole nother tangent. Then
over here.
He ended up, he was like, well, just drive my truck. So I'm going to drive his Toyota at Hammers. And so I already went to Colorado a month ago and prepped his truck, and it's sitting in his shop ready for King of the Hammers.
So you're racing his truck at Hammers, not yours?
Right, his truck at Hammers.
So you're just going to have to fly out there.
I still got to go to Colorado because they're all trailer tied. And so I got to go through there, and we got to load up some stuff. But oh well.
I think that's every time I've been to the Hammers, it's splitting resources. And I think on the smaller teams, and even I say smaller teams, I'm saying like mid-level teams that do have toter homes and big enclosed trailers, they're still looking at, hey, how can we split these resources? These big tents that they rent out there are still thousands of dollars for weeks at a time. And it doesn't make sense for a small time team to do it when you go a little bit bigger tent and then you could split that cost 2 or 3 or 4 ways. I think the way you're doing it is great. And you also get to look at, all right, well, they're doing this class and I'm in this class, and they're on separate days. Okay, so we can cross cross there
Oh, yeah.
over with me to help out, and then whenever I'm not racing, we're doing the same thing over, and then you can cross your points on your pre-running. Like, hey, did you see this here? Did you see that there? And it's almost like your team itself is bigger, and really it's not. It's just you're now sharing your resources.
You're on.
Talking about splitting costs.
Yeah, so let's get, I guess, some back on track on the points.
Yeah, we can go back to the
points. I'm sure we'll get back talking about the KOHs and all that other stuff. But so you didn't run. What was your first race that you did points wise?
So the first race I did points wise was AOP, and so I came in there with like the truck, the freshest I thought it had ever been, because I had Justin's new wheels and tires on it. Well,
new to you, right?
New to me. There were some new ones he hadn't even hit the dirt yet.
What tires were they?
So they're Maxxis Trepador radials, 35.
Okay.
And with Raceline wheels. And so,
now, can you explain to everybody the type of tire you have to run in your class?
Yeah. So in my class, in stock class, you've got to run a 35-inch DOT approved tire, no bigger than a 35.
And now DOT means like you can't run a sticky.
Right, you can't run a competition tire.
So the sticky tires, what we call stickies, it's a different tread compound. It may have the same tread as a DOT tire, but it's softer. And if anybody's ever been around like a dirt track car, a drag car, the rubber's really soft and flexible, and when you get it hot, it gets sticky.
Right.
So these limited classes, you can't have that, and the only class you can run those is unlimited,
right?
From what I understand.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the EV class is going to allow it coming up.
The EV class is kind of like a mix of just whatever you build, race it.
Yeah.
Right now,
so
if it's electric, you're good.
So you might be able to run stickies in the EV class, which
Yeah.
I think would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But so I'd say you're limited. You're actually opened up because you're not stuck to having to run a sticky tire.
Right.
So, I mean, any DOT tire you could run. Like if you wanted to put I think it'd be awesome to see an old Toyota truck out there on some Thornbirds.
Oh, God.
Yes. I also think it'd be cool if Interco made a sticky Thornbird.
Yeah.
Just for the heck of it, and run it at like I think it'd work great at like Moab because it's mud, a sticky.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost a drag slick because there's the blocks are so big.
Yeah, right.
I mean, even if they did it for like an April Fool's joke, Interco would be. I think it'd be great for them.
I ran SXs my whole trail riding life, so
my whole family's still on SXs,
Yeah. Yeah, after I started driving on the road, I got some BFGs because the swampers in the morning when they're cold will shake you.
Yeah, you get a bi-sply.
Yeah.
What is it? It's the Super Swamper. What is it? The ones that have the ridges. They're made
boggers.
Yeah,
the bog.
Is it boggers?
Yeah.
I've seen people grab. I can tell exactly what they look like, but I've seen people rip the valve stem out because the sidewall is so thick.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just rip the valve stem out and they run them empty.
My brother had some old ones on his rock crawler, and he traded them to a friend of ours for some 47-inch Super Swampers, and the boggers were 44s. And when the other guy started running the 44-inch boggers, they'd never been cut. He cut every other lug out of it, but they were so old that once they were grooved like that, he started ripping whole legs off because the rubber was so old and dry. And then my brother's like, I don't know if I should feel bad or not.
Right.
Next race, what we got?
All right, so after
AOP,
at
AOP, I had the fresh tires. I had a brand new motor in there. The motor I talked about earlier, it was in there and ready to go, and the truck was pretty fresh. And I pre-ran it and was like, "Gee, this is so rough. I don't even want to race this." Like,
did you have newer shocks in the back?
Yeah, I had. So at some time in the year before, I'd done King shocks and air bumps in the front, so I had pretty decent suspension. And it's basically the same now, but that's what I had there. And I pre-ran and it was so rough. I was like, God dang, like I almost don't even want to race. I'm just going to destroy this truck. This is bad. I don't have a co-driver, and I know I'm going to have to winch. So like, whatever. And so I didn't even qualify. Like we were busy doing something else. I'm not a big qualifier. And I was like, it doesn't matter.
Like, I got
it don't matter.
Jerk,
Like if I'm passing people, I'm good, so we did that. And I ended up, the truck was getting hot at that race. Was having problems with overheating, but it was in the middle of summer. It was really hot.
Mm-hmm. And you're
really hot.
You're in the valleys, probably not a lot of
fresh
wind
motor. It ended up I had something wrong with that I had adjusted wrong in the motor, so it was just too much timing. So it was just getting really hot. And but yeah, I ended up coming in second there. So
Nice.
Okay.
That was a good race, and that was my first actual Ultra 4 trophy. Like, so I was pretty thrilled about that.
You got that on the mount,
Yeah,
on the mantle now.
Yeah,
huh? That's very cool.
So 1,000 points is the maximum, right? And then
so
you
if
ended
you're
up with
1,000, that's first place, and with the 7 points is for qualifying first.
Okay, because we saw that when in the last episode we were talking about on the who was it? Eric Miller had like 1,007. I was like, is that a misprint?
The 7 is for the first place qualifying.
Okay, but so you ended up with 975 points,
right?
So I guess 25 points behind first,
right?
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
I'm still learning by looking at the points.
Oh yeah,
like what? So you had 975.
Right.
I'm assuming that's high up. But now I know 25 points off is second. Okay.
Right.
And I'm guessing 950 would be third place, I guess. Or depending on how they did it at that one. Or there's 965. I mean, I'm still learning.
Yeah,
I hope by next season of this podcast, I will be able to look and be like, that is 13th place and a half.
Yeah. And he qualified 6th.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right. So AOP, you ended up second.
Right. Yeah.
What was? I know the payouts have always changed, gone up.
Right.
They've always. I don't know. I don't think they've ever decreased.
No, they never have.
But for your class and getting second place, is the trophy enough, or is the payout you get and the amount? Don't have to be exact or don't have to get into, but does that actually help your program? And what kind of incentive does that add to you as far as trying to finish that high?
Yeah. So like, I love the trophy because the trophy lasts forever. The money's only going to last so long, but it is pretty awesome when they cut you $1,000 check and you're like, boom, there goes all our fuel cost, our food cost for the week, for the race. Like, it makes it better. So $1,000 is second place. First place is $1,500.
Okay.
So, I mean the money is just an extra thank you. Like I like to get it, but that's not 100% what I'm worried about. The trophies are really what I like.
Gotcha.
And the reason I ask that is I've had people ask me, like when I tell them about this type of racing, they're like, well, like how much do you win? And then I'm like, well, back in the day, it was
a case of beer.
A case of beer. Originally, it was a case of beer. That's what started it all. And just like anything, and we talked about it a little bit last episode, was you don't do this to make a living. There's one, if not a couple people that have done this to where they are now making a living completely off of this.
Speaking of that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Lauren, you still haven't signed this for me. It's a funny little story.
Now we got someone new. Now he gets to tell Lauren to come get this.
Lauren, you need to come get this thing, sign it, do something.
Put it in a museum.
Dust here. Yeah, museum.
We put it in a museum. Yeah. In fact, I saw his partner Vaughn Gittin. His car was in New York City in a museum. The first Rocky.
Wow. Oh, really? The one that Light Bright, or not that Light Bright, the toy company Light Bright made a Walmart, a little RC car with.
The one my kid points at, and I'm like, no. You're not buying my competition's toy.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the museum, but it was funny. My son, my nephew took a picture in front of it, and he sent it to me, and I sent it to Randy Rod, who built that.
Yeah.
And it was Randy's birthday. He goes, I almost cried. That was so awesome to see that.
Did Randy not know it was there?
He knew it was there. It was only It was only going to be there for another week, and he couldn't get up there to see it. Wow. So it was the only one he got a picture with.
That's cool.
But
I gave his son Cade a pocket knife at
Disney.
Nationals.
Yeah. He was there. That was cool to see Randy at the.
Yeah.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
So where were we at before we got talking?
So we were getting ready to talk about Visions. I think the race after AOP was Visions. and Visions. So up until Visions, every race I'd went to at Mid America, I'd won. So like I was like, okay, all the Ultra 4 guys are really going to be here this time, and so like I really want to do good because it's like my home course.
And that was a double points race.
It's double points.
So 2,000 for first,
right?
right?
2,000. So I'm trying to remember. I don't remember if I qualified or not. I feel like yes, I did actually.
Okay.
I remember it now. But yeah, so it was
dusty.
Yeah, it was dusty. And I didn't do very good there. I still ended up with 888 points, which is good, which is half of double or half of 2,000, less than half of 2,000.
So if it would have been a regular race, that would have been 444.
Yeah, something like that.
So I don't know where that puts you, but
Yeah.
I mean,
It wasn't
than zero.
very good. I literally did one lap, and when I came around, they were checkered flagging me. Like I was that bad. Like I had that bad of a day.
What do you know? How many laps the winner did?
I think 3, or I'm not sure. It was the Broncos, and they were freaking moving.
Yeah,
but it was a scary race because it was so dusty. And we actually, I'm glad that somebody did it. Was like teamed up and got with JT and was like, hey, we don't want to race with 45 and 4,800 out there.
Right.
And like just us 4,600s together, it was sketchy. It was so dusty.
I could see that because there is, even between 46 to 4,700,
Yeah.
a significant speed difference.
Yeah. And you sneak up on somebody so much faster than you're like in the dust. Like you don't see them until you're on top of them.
I wouldn't even say you're sneaking up on them.
Yeah.
It's a surprise.
Yeah.
I would think like you
and
are there.
and the person in the front.
Yeah. But so I pre-ran that whole course and I loved it. I was like, yes, this is it. Like it's a good course. And I found my little gotcha spots where I could sneak and, maybe pass somebody or something, which I'm not very fast, but I usually just get behind someone's broke. And I think I'm fast because I'm passing somebody's broke. But I was somehow or another, like the night before, I crawled under the truck and I looked and the front drive shaft was just like bent. Like it was just caved in. And I was like, when did I do that?
You didn't feel it driving or anything?
No. So I was like, oh, well, it must not be that bad because I didn't feel it. And so I had no co-driver, but my buddy shows up.
A theme there.
Yeah. He shows up and he wants to ride. And I was like, okay, like he literally, like I wake up, get out of the trailer. He's sitting there in my chair. Like he had drove up that morning and hopped in. He had never seen the course, never rode in a race car, never.
He's like, let's go.
Yeah, he wanted to so bad. And I was like, dude, if you pay the entry, like I'll get you a helmet and a fire suit and all that. We'll get you in. And so we get up to the starting line and I'm like, man, it feels like the truck's missing a little bit, maybe. I don't know. This is weird. So like I take off,
I can see where this is going.
3 cylinders. Like it was just gutless, just blah. And then like as soon as I get up to speed, it's just shaking to death because the front drive shaft's broke. And I'm like,
but in your head,
dang.
were you like, engine's coming apart?
No, I knew it was the drive shaft. But like the engine was like missing. I was like, this is really weird. Like I must have just, and then like it kind of like cleared up. I was like, okay, cool. So we just roll on and, we're beating up the truck and they had this ginormous grass pasture. You go all the way across and like the main pits were set there. People were just flying through there. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to let it eat through here. And I just was like, I'll just let the drive shaft shake us to death. Just as fast as we can. And then it's just like long grass. And then it just cuts into this tight wood trail. And so I go to slow down, brake pedal goes to the floor. And I just jerk the wheel. And I just run through the banners and all this stuff and go off in the bushes.
Do you have any idea how you lost brakes?
It tore brake line. I figured that out later.
But how did it tear it? From the drive shaft? Did the drive shaft hit it? Or?
I don't know. I'm just.
Or is it from the incident where the drive shaft got bent?
I have no idea.
Or a little gnome the night before.
Yeah, mine was soft line down to a little short hard line, and it broke the hard line off the caliper. So it could have just been vibrations of.
Okay.
Like this is the same brake line that was on it from 1981. So
yeah,
who knows what happened between those 40 years? But
did you have another one in your shed?
Yeah, I did actually. So what I ended up doing was
crimping it off.
I had the shut-offs, so I shut the front brakes off.
Okay.
So
and more and more people are doing that, and I think it's a great
it's the
idea.
best thing you can do. And I have one on the front, one on the back, and that's my parking brake too.
You've seen that, right?
Yeah.
So-
Line lock.
Oh, because you have to have a parking brake.
Yeah,
there, right?
so that's
Okay.
my parking brake. I can shut all four wheels down. You can't drag that thing. Like it's awesome.
Nice.
But so I'm like hit the valve, hit the brakes. Okay, I got some pedal, and we're cruising along, and like it's the back brake, so it's just dragging them everywhere. Every time we go downhill, I'm just sliding down these hills, and it starts missing again. And we hit this hill and get about halfway up it, and I can't make it, and the truck dies. And then I start rolling backwards, no brakes. I've never been so scared in my entire life because it was full dust. I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me, 2 feet behind me, and I'm going full speed down this hill backwards. And I'm just looking in the rearview mirror, just trying to dodge trees.
Your truck's a manual, right?
Yeah. So I cram it in first and dump the clutch, and boom, there it is. Stops. Oh, thank God. It's like put it in triple low and just up this dirt hill. And we stop, and I just let everybody go by, and we putt around. And by the time I limp it all the way around, there was another spot where you drop off this little waterfall. I dropped off, and it hit the rear bumper just like really hard. Just like it came all the way off of it, and the wheels like come off the ground. It just all the weight on the back bumper. And I didn't think nothing of that. And we finish out the course and get done. And when I come across to the finish line, they're checkered flagging everybody like that.
Gotcha.
I just had a bad race, and I ended up bending the rear frame from dropping off the rock, blowing the motor up. I lost compression on the first cylinder, broke the brake line. I was just like when the front axle housing was bent, and
the drive shaft as well.
Yeah, and the drive shaft, and I was just like, God dang, like I just need to build something else now. Like this truck is just the truck was totaled,
Yeah.
But I was pretty bummed after Visions, but it was a good race. Like it was fun race to go to, and Visions is like a week-long event.
Oh, it's a blast.
We had fun all the way through it, and a couple guys that were from out of town came because it's a double point, so people come from farther away. So it was good, all except for the race part.
Yeah, no joke. And
Yeah.
like we've said it numerous times, Visions is always a great event. I went the first year, and that was 7 days long, so I was there for 9.
Yeah.
I thought the first year was even longer than
It was.
a week.
It was
Yeah.
7 days.
Yeah.
No, like I thought it was like 9 days.
I was
Yeah.
there for 9.
Okay,
Yeah.
based on the dates from when I remember the first year they did it, I was like, man, this is like a week and a half.
I think it was like a weekend, a week, and a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
It was nuts, but we got to. I mean, the concerts, everything was just. And
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the wheeling out there. I've only been out there with Deep Hats
Yeah.
and wheeling around with him on his side by side. And now this year's event's it's shortened down to about 4 days, 3
Yeah,
days,
right,
something like
yeah.
that, which is nice. But I mean, I love that place. It was so
Yeah.
fun.
The first Visions year, I just went up there, dropped my trailer off, went home,
Yeah.
and worked all week, and then went up there for like.
You don't
that
got to
weekend.
brag that you live so close to
Yeah.
one of the nicest off-road
Yeah.
parks in the nation. Okay,
I do. 'Cause
Or if
it's
not
like the
the
best
nicest
thing
part.
that's happened in a long
Well,
time.
we said this in the last podcast. We were always. I mean, we've followed KOH and Ultra 4 for 10 years or better,
Right.
and we were always like, damn, why can't they come closer to Oklahoma? Now they're based out of Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It's just great because I mean,
Yeah.
I always thought that would be the ideal thing because it's the same distance for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So-
first year they had the Davis race, I was like, Ultra 4's in Oklahoma?
Yeah.
Like, this is awesome.
I was the same way.
Yeah,
I had
like-
never been to Crossbar yet, and I'm like, oh, I didn't even know there's an off-road park there because I grew up
Right.
wheeling southeastern Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Big rocks, big creek beds, big climbs, and I'm
Mhm.
like, well, there's an off-road park there. If it's anything like Arbuckle Off-Road Park that doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
like, okay, it might be kind of cool. And I didn't realize it was that big.
Oh, yeah.
And and then Mid America is I know nothing against the park we were just talking about.
Mid America.
No,
Crossbar.
Davis.
Oh,
Crossbar.
Davis,
Nothing
Crossbar.
against Crossbar, but Mid America is built specifically to be like the best.
A
out there.
vacation.
Yeah.
It's a destination.
Yeah, it's a destination
yeah.
park.
Yeah.
But anyway, next race.
So after that, I skipped Sturgis because the motor was blown up. I wanted to go to Sturgis again because it's like a short course, and that truck is not built for short course. And you can drive it flat-footed the whole time, and it's just as fast as that truck will go.
Do you just stay in one gear, or are you
Oh.
having to shift much?
Oh, just whatever gear I feel like. I just cram it back and forth. But that place I had so much fun racing there the first time. And I I just want to go to Sturgis because it's Sturgis,
Mhm.
and there's what's the monument with the presidents? I can't remember. The
Rushmore.
Rushmore.
Not Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore is like 45 minutes from there.
Yep.
So I
Were
was
you
like,
disappointed when you got there? Did you go?
Mount Rushmore?
I-
Yeah.
Well, the reason I say that is everything I've heard is like you see these pictures of like Mount Rushmore, but you get there and then you're like, oh yeah, that looks really cool. You're like looking through
Yeah,
binoculars
it's
like a long
pretty
ways
cool.
away, or it's like fogged over or something.
No, it was cool. I liked it.
Okay.
And, like it was
That makes me feel
it
better.
was a lot bigger than I thought. I think. I don't remember very well.
She said.
Yeah. But yeah,
How'd,
so
how'd you end up in Sturgis?
at that Sturgis I ended up doing I did really well in qualifying, and then we started. So it was like prelims, like one,
Yeah,
you know,
they had the
like
heat
this-
races.
Yeah, it was
heat
heats,
races.
yeah.
I love that setup. Like it's cool because you can go drive it really hard, run to the pits,
Mm-hmm.
do a few things, go to your next race.
Maybe the same amount of laps as doing like qualifying and then a big race,
Right.
but you have time to make adjustments
Yeah.
and learn and also smaller groups where you're
Yeah.
not in like a huge pack.
Yeah, and you could literally watch the race from your pit.
Well, it's all like on a hillside. isn't it?
Yeah, so like we were like right over here, and the race is here, and you could literally just watch. I was wrenching on the truck watching all my buddies race. Like it
That's
was
neat.
it was cool, but I ended up that was probably the first time I really got the truck like really airborne, like on purpose. And so like I was like feeling it out, jumping it, and I was like slowly just getting harder and harder.
Now you say airborne, you're talking about inches or feet?
Feet.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you know. So like I jumped it, and I landed in a rut, and it just snapped the knuckleball.
Oh,
It
geez.
just broke the
Mm.
pin, which is it basically broke a ball joint in simple terms,
Mhm.
and it just
Yeah.
laid the wheel in. Well, I got it back to the pit, tore it down, and it had bent the knuckleball, like flattened it.
Oh,
So
geez.
like you couldn't. There was no fixing it. Not at the race.
Did it crush the bottom up from the force?
Yeah, it crushed the
Oh.
bottom up. So it basically shut. So I had to like cut it off and replace the knuckleball, which I had in my shed. So I fixed it for free once again, but
Nice.
ended up it was like it was slowly collapsing the balls again.
I
So
think
got
we're
the diamond
developing a
housing.
name for your shop, The Shed.
The shed.
Yeah, it's the shed now.
But yeah. So
So you didn't run Sturgis
I didn't run
in
Sturgis.
2022.
right. And so after that I ran the Legends, and that was at Mid America
Well, and-
again.
So, but you didn't run Crandon, right?
Right, I didn't run Crandon, and I wanted to run one of these two, and the motor problem like really just lagged on,
Killed you on
and
both
I
of
was
them.
gonna be like stabbing the motor the night before we left for Crandon, and I was just like, nah, whatever.
Well, in the future, I'm in Moore. So if you need help,
Yeah,
I've got places to stay in Muskogee. I will come out and help you if need
Awesome.
be. All right. So just holler, or we'll meet you. You bring it here, and I'll bring tools down, and we can just
Oh,
do it that
yeah.
way too. I mean, we'll figure it out next year or next time.
but
So you ended up after Crandon going to Legends.
right, I went to Legends.
Is that Legends of the Fall? That
Yeah,
was one in
that
Disney.
was at Disney.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And
Which
Dude,
was,
I was-
nationals.
yeah, first race at Disney ever, besides like some old buddies racing.
Well,
for
and
fun.
the secret race they did a couple years ago.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
right.
Yeah, that was the Disney Challenge. Did you ever hear about that?
I seen it on YouTube when I was like super young.
Yeah,
'Cause-
because it was in 2000,
yeah.
2007,
And so-
2008.
I thought they did another one more recently. Did they not?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
And so, like for me, when I go to a race, even though Disney is like my home place, I go try to watch some videos of races that have been there, so I can kind of have an idea.
Yeah, you can't do that there.
I do my homework, but at Disney, I found those old videos and I watched them just for fun.
Mhm.
I was not worried about any climb at Disney. Like I was like, put us on the hardest rocks, and I am freaking there because like I've been rock crawling at Disney for
Years, yeah.
more than 10 years. And so, yeah, we show up there and pre-run. And so I went the weekend before the race to break in that new motor I was talking about.
Okay.
So I went the weekend before and kind of sneaking around, ran into JT and Miles, and and I like didn't follow him around.
Right.
And then I ran into him later and he's like, you could have just followed us. And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I know this place better than anybody that's coming here. I don't need to cheat. Like,
Right.
I'm going to know. I already have an advantage.
Yeah.
But
well, it's not like there's a bunch of hidden trails there either.
Right.
It's for the most part, it's fairly open.
Mhm.
There are some trails
Yeah.
back in the woods,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, it's fairly open. So it's not
Right.
like oh, I didn't take that right there. No, it's you're
Yeah.
looking at the wall.
Yeah, and I knew we weren't going to go into the woods just because the way to get into the woods now is like it's sketchy. Like just driving my truck back there, I'm like, oh, screw this, because the riverbed's completely washed away.
Mhm.
For anybody that's ever been there, it's gone. So you have to drive on the side of a mountain, and I was like, there's no way in and no way out. Like there's one way in, and
Right.
it's a mess. So we're not going in the woods
Unless you come down Nasty Girl, the Bounty
right.
Hill.
Yeah, and yeah, so I pre-ran all that, and I was like, okay, cool. I was a little disappointed we didn't get to do the waterfall or Little Blue up the hard. Well, I say the hard way. Going down it was freaking sketchy, even though it doesn't look like it in the video. I did not like it at all.
I was doing recovery, and I had my Jeep, and it's open differential. So of course, there's everybody's pre-running. I wasn't by no means about to try to go up or down Little Blue, but we get over there and we're watching, and there was a girl. She was 14, running a
Dirt Princess 7.
running the side by side, and they were. So like if you're going up on the right side, there's a little cave. You know, they had the marker coming across, and she was standing there the whole time we were there, probably an hour.
No,
maybe.
so I know her dad really well,
Uh-huh.
and we were over there talking about it, and like I'm pretty sure that she didn't ever drive down it till the race, because I was over there.
Okay.
So I spent a lot of time over there because I knew that people were going to come off that left side, right side, whichever way, the fast side where Levels and where Brad was coming
left
down.
side, they were coming down that side.
I knew that you could come off of that, but I didn't know. I was like, well, if I have any weird brake problem or anything, like I'm going to come off that thing, it's going to be sketchy. So I'm going to go around and just take it easy. But I went over there probably 3 times during pre-running and just looked at it, walked it, and was making sure, because I knew that someone would try going down the middle and get stuck, because I did it. I tried going down the middle, stuck. I couldn't turn and go through it.
We saw a side by side. I was gonna say by he who may not be named, but he went way high right, trying to come around one of those kickouts and on its side, and then it's like, now what do we do?
Yeah,
it's a trail tampon,
and that's what I was afraid of during the race. It was like, that's going to be the spot where you need to be able to get around, and I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go around this way, and my screw it hero line is going to be the line that Level was taking like it was nothing, which I knew the truck could have done it, but it was like really steep, and I was afraid the bumper would get because mine hangs out a little bit farther.
Well, and even the other side was where that girl was watching.
Mm-hmm.
It goes down pretty easy, but then right at the last couple of feet, it's almost vertical. Where the side that you're talking about Level going down, it's more consistent, but overall it's steeper. So I mean, it's kind of pick your poison.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The scary part about the other side was every time you drove up to it, you couldn't see where you were going.
The side by the trees,
right? Or either side.
In
the truck strapped in. Like what I did was I made a visual point on the other side, and that's what I was aiming the truck at when I was driving off, because you can't even see off of it to drive off of it.
Like, I don't think I'd ever wreck wheeling. I don't think I've ever seen anybody go off those.
I hadn't seen anything ever.
Oh no, go off of it.
Yeah, go down.
Until going down, and when we were there watching pre-running, that girl was there watching, and I'm like, why is she over there? And because she's just studying everything, and everybody's coming up, and
I don't blame her,
and slowing down, and then I'm like, why aren't they coming down the middle? And then that's when Terry was flopped over. I was like, okay, maybe this is a good thing that he's during pre-running flopped over, and everybody was forced to go around, and then there was a couple cars that were just making laps, and every time they were getting faster and faster and faster. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I can see this working now, you know. But I even walked up. I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, we're just watching. I'm like, you nervous? She's like,
oh yeah. Yeah, the razor line, which was like at the very edge of the ropes or whatever, and then the cave. Like that was what I call the razor line. And that was like a good line, but it was very sketchy to drive up to anything over there. And so basically I picked the middle where I had like a 20-foot range of where like if me and someone was going down it at the same time, I could just drop next to them and I wouldn't wait on them. I'd just go next to them and then we'd be okay.
So
I don't remember which vehicle it was. There was a Jeep, maybe stock class, and he went down kind of the area you're talking about. But when he dropped off, the rear end kind of came up and it gassed it, and he almost ended up like Austin Powers in the middle, right there at the bottom of the ledge.
I've literally done that in a rock crawler. Like went to go up one side, and then you're Austin Powers in between it. Back bumpers hitting, the tires are hitting. Like there's just nowhere to go.
So race day comes along with at Legends of the Fall.
Yeah.
Well, did you qualify?
Yeah, I did.
That was that straight shot.
I did qualify. It was the straight shot. So I didn't pre-run the qualifying course, but I had like pre-ran the course through there. Like I didn't really like
the qualifying course was the actual course.
I didn't really like go fast through there, so I didn't really know. So I qualified probably almost last, so I could kind of watch what some guys were doing. And I sent it way harder than I meant to, like really hard. The tailgate fell down in qualifying too.
Oh, that's when it started?
Yeah, that's when it started. And I don't really remember how I qualified. I think 7th or 8th or something like that. The truck's not like a drag truck.
Right.
So
well, that was the funny thing with qualifying is everybody was like, qualifying really don't matter.
Yeah.
Because it's a completely different animal with Disney. And the way he had it set up, it was just straight shot. Horsepower's going to win that. And so, but horsepower wasn't going to win.
I didn't even know where the finish line was for qualifying when I drove off.
Tim Hooper did that, and circled the finish line and went back in.
Yeah, I was on course watching that, and he went backwards and I turned around and go back through forward or something like that. It was.
I did like that though I didn't like that for my type of qualifying, but like the video footage they got from that qualifying was really cool because there were some guys just buck wild.
Someone almost endoed end over end.
Oh yeah.
It was one of the Unlimited cars. I don't know which one it was. And from about the middle of the course where I was at, because everybody started hitting, like there was a middle line and they were jumping off of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And the rear end kicked up real high, and all I saw was rear tires and like the back of a car. And I was like, oh, I start moving towards my Jeep for recovery and a fire extinguisher, and then water's everywhere, and I didn't hear anything. And then I hear then I see a car. Once the water came back down, going through it, and I was like, "How did they save that?"
Mm-hmm.
Like,
oh yeah,
I saw it. It's on the recap, I think.
Yeah.
How did you? Even though you didn't go fast, how did you like the qualifying course?
I liked it. I should have pre-ran it better, and I like that. That style of qualifying isn't for my truck, but because it's just not a go fast in a straight line type thing. But I liked it because of the footage it put out for everybody. They had the drone there over the top, and it it looked good, and I liked it. I wouldn't mind doing it like that every time because it's fast. You go down there and you get it done.
Yeah, it's real fast, to the point, and besides one spot, I would say at the end, the risk of hurting your vehicle is minimal.
Oh, yeah.
So you can go fast and hard for the most part, and not have to worry about killing yourself out of the race. I would think.
So was anything broken in qualifying, or were you good?
No, it was good. The tailgate fell, and I thought I shut it good enough before the race. But
we'll get to that.
Yeah, but qualifying went good, and I
got ready for race day.
Before I pre-ran, I had a guy, Chris, tune my shocks. So I was like kind of getting used, like kind of feeling that out in pre-running and qualifying whenever I tune them or had them tuned, I couldn't really tell just pre-running speed, and I tried to drive a little hard. But in qualifying, I was like, okay, like this thing is 50% better than it was. Like, it's a lot better.
Did it take a lot for him adjustment wise to get to that point, or was it fairly close?
So I bought them. I bought my shocks off Poly Performance, just the cheapest place you could get them, and I just bolted them straight on, and they had like a flutter stack in them, and I've heard that that's good. So I was like, okay, well, I'll take those. And he was like, I don't want to watch it. Like, I don't need to watch it. Just pull your shocks off and bring it to me. and let me check them. And he comes bringing them back, and he's laughing. He's like, this thing's going to ride 100 times better. The crap that was in there was for like a Super Duty. Like, this thing is going to be, he's like, this truck probably weighs 4,000 pounds at best. And like, you could have put these on an 8,000 pound diesel truck and they would have been fine. So like, I go take off in it and I'm like, oh, it feels a little bit better. But then when you go fast in it, it was way, way better.
Cool.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Very cool.
Well, good. That's the first I've heard of anybody shock tuning. Like, I know some people were talking about making adjustments, but like actually shock tuning at Disney, that's the first I've heard of it.
Yeah.
So awesome.
And I had been, and so I try to just go in the shocks once a year, I've only been racing for 2 years, so I put the shocks on brand new. At the beginning of this year, I opened them up, looked in them. Okay, nothing's broke. Put them back together.
Okay.
But then I was like, okay, Chris is going to be there, and I'm going to let him do them. Like, I want to do them.
Chris who?
I don't know how to say his last name. It's like Wang something. He's from Diddy's Big Block Speed Shop.
Okay.
And so Phil Accardi actually, him and Phil Accardi are good buddies.
Oh,
like,
okay.
I think
Shock Jesus.
Yeah,
Shock Jesus.
I think that maybe Phil taught him a little bit or something.
When the reason I ask is I had never heard that name in regards to shock tuning.
And I talked to Phil. And, he's way out there, and that's kind of like a hard thing to do. But he basically said, you're Far East, just go to Chris. And I was like, okay, well.
We're actually actively trying to find him on the Book of Faces at the moment.
So
Chris McDaniel?
No.
Oh.
Chris McDaniel is a racer out of Arkansas. We'll keep on going, yeah.
But yeah, so he told me to go to Chris, and I hit up Chris, and he was like, oh, I think he was like kind of gun shy because it's like an old shitty Toyota,
He's like, am I about to get in some Renter 9000s or something?
Yeah, he's like, am I about to get into a disaster? And I know exactly how that is. I work on Toyota, so I know like sometimes you can open up a can of worms. It's a nightmare. And he doesn't know me, so I might be some stickler that's like, these shocks aren't good enough. Or
the
something.
old stuff in the magazines where leaf spring and rear, but the shocks are like a TP under it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he did a fantastic job. Like,
well, good.
Didn't watch the truck. I didn't know what to tell him to do to it because I really I have videos of the truck and like I seen some things and the only thing I really know is when you jump it, the axles didn't drop. Like they didn't have enough rebound. You'd jump it and it would just stay.
Oh,
so there was no droop, and that's basically all I told him, and he fixed that, and that was like game changer.
So you would recommend him?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Cohen. Okay, now before we go on about Disney Race Day, we got to shout out to some of our sponsors that we have and potential new sponsors that we're trying to get. Territory Whiskey is one of them right here. This is like a buttered pecan
whiskey liqueur.
Whiskey liqueur is actually what it is. It actually doesn't taste anything like what you think a whiskey shot would taste like. So, thanks for coming, Mick. We appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
Nice meeting you again.
Yep.
Tell us what you think about it.
Wow.
It's completely different,
It's
isn't it?
completely different.
You're expecting that bite of a whiskey, and it's not that.
Yeah, that kick in the teeth. That's really good.
You know what I didn't expect is that during that last episode, at the very end, you kept in you're a pecan whiskey.
Yeah.
Well, my cousin's listening to it while he's working in the custom shop he works at, and he says, out of nowhere, we were at his shop. He's like, "You're a pecan whiskey." He's like, "Yeah, I was hilarious." Like, I guess he's listening to it, working on something, and he heard that, and he just started chuckling.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, "Well, that's not." I just said it. It was one of those things.
Yeah, we were in a good mood. We were having fun.
What we're doing here, we're talking shop, just sitting around discussing stuff. I mean, none of this is on a.
None of this is official, as Miles would say.
Yes, it's unofficially, but
yes.
Like none of this is like pre-discussed. Like we may talk about like what we're wanting to talk about, but we don't have any. We don't have cue cards. We don't have a script. This is all off the cuff, and I think that's a good thing. Like
no, and that's one thing that I do is I kind of refrain from talking to either. Like today, we have Mick on board with us on the shop, and then with you, and I'll give him a basic idea of what we're going to ask. Other than that, we leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
Another sponsor we need to shout out to. He's been helping me for over 10 years. Is Todd Stoffer with Custom Splice. you have any kind of needs as far as recovery gear, ropes, he's got everything. Whenever he sets up shop at one of the events, he's got sunglasses, he's got everything.
Even if you like, because I know at one point there were some tow trucks in his area that were wanting to go to the winch ropes, and he actually developed the fair leads and everything to bolt onto these to get away these tow trucks away from cables. And he now offers it. Awesome. The worn pulls-alls.
Yeah, the pulls-alls. He offers it.
He makes a whole conversion kit for that. Like if you have something that you're like, hey, I can't find this for this.
Right.
Can you do it? Like I would say he's the person to call because
custom spliced.
Yeah, exactly. It's all I run on any of the stuff I use. It's what I recommend. Yeah. Because I know if I have an issue, I can call him, I can message him on Facebook, I can get a hold of him somehow, and within maybe a day's time, I'm going to get an answer back. Either stop bugging me, or you're an idiot, or I've got this, I can do this. I know how to make that work, and that's the kind of places I like to do business with.
Right.
Yeah. No joke. Todd's a good friend. Been friends for 15, 20 years.
And go Pokes. He's Oklahoma State alumni. You know?
Boomer State.
Boomer State.
Boomer State.
You're about to.
That territory got to me a little bit. No, I'm just teasing. All right, let's go on in. Race day, Disney, Oklahoma, Legends of the Fall, Nationals Ultra 4 USA.
And that was a kind of a chilly morning. It was not warm. It was chilly.
It was cold. We was in the middle of that Oklahoma. I don't know whether it's going to be hot or cold today weather.
Yes.
Which most people aren't familiar with. Yeah. But it's kind of like nighttime, daytime at Hammers. It just switches in nowhere. But yeah, it was pretty cold. The truck was in great condition, like fresh axle housing, brand new diamond axle housing, 0 miles.
So Nationals was the first time you had that diamond axle housing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at Nationals. And because the front one just kept smiling a little bit more and more, So I kind of was like, okay, before it breaks, I'll just fix it. And I did. And so I had the fresh housing, the fresh motor, fresh clutch with the motor. It was just, the truck was probably the freshest it's ever been.
Okay.
And, so we take off, and I got to drag race Tom Biddle off the starting line. Nice. It's the other Toyota guy. He's got a black, I think it's 85 Toyota pickup. We're basically the same build because there's only so much you can do to Toyota.
Well, it's a stock, and it's a stock class. Yeah. So like I said, unless you have that really rare diesel, you're stuck with that engine.
Yeah. We got the same motor, same transfer case, same axle, same everything. It was like, yes, we get to drag race off.
Well, and there's only so much you can deviate from Leaf Springs factory. Like you can run a different leaf pack and a different shock, but you can't run. It's not like you're reinventing the geometry.
Oh yeah. There's not much you can do.
Yeah.
But we drag raced off the line, and that was a blast. He got me because I think he was down in a lower transfer case gear or something. Because he got it off the line, and I'm just bogging the whole time trying to get up to speed.
So are you dual cased?
Yeah. So it's dual cases, and it's got a 2.28 in the front, and then the back it's a 4-7. So this thing is like crazy slow and triple low, as I call it.
Yes.
But I never use it. I like to run in high all the time, which I've talked to some other Toyota guys, and they don't do that. And I don't know if maybe that's something I need to switch to or what, but I like running in just straight high gear all the time.
So you think he was like maybe?
I think he had one of his transfer cases in low.
Okay.
And as fast as we go, up to 40 miles an hour, you can go to fifth gear in a low gear and you're fine. But I stay in first, second, maybe third.
Because you're overall in a higher gear ratio.
Right.
Okay.
But we drag race off the line. He got in front of me, and we were just chasing I was chasing him. He got in front of me, and he was driving like a maniac. And I was like, I'm not letting him get away from me. So I was driving like an idiot too. And, we come around to a little water crossing, and I think he splashed the water a little too hard, and it killed him.
Was it the first crossing where qualifying ended?
No, it was after that. You go around the rocks, and you cut back going towards waterfall. And I think he splashed. I'm not sure, But I mean, I was so hard on his bumper when he splashed and died, I just smashed the back of it. I mean, just like it's got this angry eye look on one side on my truck now from it. But luckily, it didn't like tear it up too bad. It just looks cooler. And
so, do you need to do it to the other side now?
Nah, it looks like it's winking, I guess. But
it's got a secret to tell.
Yeah, we did that, and like I hit, and it killed my truck. And I got mine started when I went to pass him. I splashed water on his truck, and it killed his truck again. And so I got away from him, and we were just doing good. And then from then, I kind of really didn't see very many people. And then, I was bebopping through there, and I got Jeremy Purick's got the yellow 4-door Jeep V8. I'm not really. I didn't really realize it was a V8 till after the race.
Is that the Gladiator?
Yeah, I think it's a Gladiator. Yeah.
I thought. Yeah. It looks like it had Is that the one that had Eric Miller's?
Yeah. So
okay, I thought it was Eric Miller.
Yeah. So Eric Miller actually drove that Jeep at Hammers. So
when Jeep was still the sponsor, is it that same one?
I think I'm not really sure how it works, but Eric Miller does drive. Eric Miller drove that Jeep at Hammers this year. I do know that. I talked to Jeremy.
Then this year. So then that makes sense because it wouldn't be the one that the Gladiator that he ran.
That was a red one, I believe.
4 years ago?
Yeah, I think it was a 4 years.
Because they didn't have the Hemi option then.
Right.
So, because I heard it and I'm like, that's a V8.
Yeah, we got into a drag race and I heard it and was like, that's weird.
Yeah.
That sounds really, really good. It's like my truck, you can talk to your co-driver. I don't have comms.
Oh, really?
So we can just talk to each other. Like that's how quiet this little truck is.
It's like
it's got a ginormous muffler.
The little heater that's over here off to the side.
Yeah. And he passed me and I was like, dang, that thing sounds good. But, after Tom, I didn't really see Tom for a little bit. And me and Jeremy were like battling it out back and forth for a while. And that was a ton of fun. And he basically could out drag race me, and then we get into like some tight woods in my little truck. I can just zip through the trees. And
right.
I was like, awesome. It's a good race between us two. And I love that. I love it.
You talk about that little tree section that was after
they called
Blue?
It Narnia.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd never even been there, and I've been to Disney a million times.
I didn't hear it called Narnia, I think, until after.
Yeah.
After all the racing was over.
Really cool spot. And
but we did drive through it while we were doing our little pre-running because he knew he was going to be doing stuff with race ops and I was going to be on course and JT wanted me to know the course. So if I had to leave an area and get anywhere, I knew every spot.
Right.
And we were just following the course and we saw flags and we're like, what is this? And it was a cool little windy tree section. There was 3
lines in these trees and I ran all of them and straight down the middle was the fastest, But the little truck, I got a steering quickener in it, so it's fast steering.
Is it a 2-to-1 or 1.5 to 1?
It's a 2-to-1.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, and in that little Narnia trees, you come out of the trees and turn left, turn right really quick.
Yeah.
And I got the truck on like 2 wheels and rode it on 2 wheels for a minute and then landed it.
I wonder if anybody has pictures or video.
I wish, because it was sketchy.
That would be like T-shirt worthy or front of a website worthy right there.
It was like those Dubai videos of those guys in those little Avalons, little Toyota Camry
on the side of the sand dunes.
Yeah,
that they look completely stock, but they've got like a twin turbocharged like super engine.
I 2-wheeled it for a minute, but and there's no one around. Like I'm just driving like an idiot by myself.
Like, did anybody see that? Did anybody see that?
But actually, there was another part in that race where it was me and Jeremy and Tom like kind of all bunched up, and there's a hill right past Nosedive, which is Viagra's here, Nosedive, and there's this dirt hill that goes up till you get on top of Little Blue,
which was the bypass for
stock and UTV.
Yeah, and UTV. Because there was a guy making laps right there.
Yeah,
pre-running.
You're bypassing Nosedive. Right?
Nosedive.
Yeah, so it is the Nosedive bypass, right?
Right.
Okay. But even then, it's still pretty steep and loose, right?
Yeah, so it's a long dirt hill, and it's like at the top there's like a little rough rock section, and then there's like one big boulder that's like the width as wide as a truck.
You didn't hit that one boulder, did you?
I hit that boulder going so fast that I literally still have a skid mark in my fire suit from. Because this truck came, I could see nothing but the sky.
I thought you were about to say you
Hey,
had a mark on your diff cover. I was not expecting
Yeah.
in your fire seat.
Oh, it's in the fire seat still. I just threw it in the trailer. It's still in there. But like Jeremy tried to pass me, and I swear, like I couldn't see him. I thought I was going to land on him. And later on, he said he thought I was going to land on him.
Well, at least you felt mutually the same way.
I would pay some good money for that video because, I mean, that truck should have broken half from how I felt it went in the air.
So what you're saying is you need to have multiple cameras on your truck
Yeah.
at King of the Hammers, right?
Yeah, because I literally said, oh, shit, oh, shit, oh, shit. And then it hit the ground.
I will donate
Yeah.
a Hero 8 that I will need back
Yeah.
because technically it's my mom's. But
Yeah.
I will donate it to you to take out there
Yeah.
just so I can have the
I
footage.
wish I would have had it. I asked Jeremy if he had it, a GoPro on his truck, because it's correct. It was dumb, is what it was. But in pre-running, I was hitting it in first gear and rolling over it, and I hit it full blown first gear, and it just launched it.
Wow.
But
I'll have to go out there and take a picture of that boulder and put it back in this.
So, and
Yeah.
what do you know what lap that was on?
that was on the first lap.
Oh,
So
okay.
it was like when I got around Tom and then Jeremy, and we were like all three kind of bunched
Okay,
up.
all right.
So I got onto the Narnia, and then I kind of went back a little bit. But
You're like, well, let's
Yeah.
back this off here.
yeah, I forgot about going straight up in the air. But I would bet money that the rear bumper hit first and then it landed. Like
Wow.
it was.
Do you think that might be where the infamous flopping tailgate started?
No, I know where the tailgate started.
Oh, okay.
But
If it's not in order, we will get there.
Yeah.
Like it.
but so we get around, and me and Jeremy are kind of like battling from then on, for a while, back and forth.
And that's the guy in the
The yellow V8.
Okay, in the
And me and
Gladiator.
him, I think we were battling for fifth, because it was the three Broncos, John
Yes.
Schaefer, and then me and him.
From what I remember I was at Staircase. That sounds
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. You were race ops. What do you think?
I could have to go back and look at my text.
I'm pretty sure, but yeah, I never passed the Broncos, and I never seen John Schaefer, and so
Okay.
it would have to have been them four.
And they all started in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it was me and him, and I love a good battle. Like when you're battling it out with
Mhm.
somebody, it's so much fun.
Well, it pushes you a little bit, and if you know your limits, you won't get stupid.
Yeah.
And you're hoping, in my eyes, and what I'm thinking, you're hoping you're pushing the other person
Yeah.
to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Is that what
So
you were
what
going
ended
for?
up? Yeah. So we were back and forth, and we'll get to where the tailgate fell.
Okay.
But so me and him were battling, and I got in front of him, and I think he was like, this kid just almost landed on me and is driving like an idiot. Like, I'm getting away from him. I think I scared him whenever I jumped next to him, because like that could have hurt both of us.
Right.
But I didn't mean to jump it that high.
I would think so. And it also, he's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna let him take himself out.
I'm going to let him
race.
take himself
Yeah.
out. Yeah. And that's kind of actually what ended up happening. But I was, I also kind of like putting on a show, because I love it whenever I'm in the crowd and someone's just being crazy and, driving wild
Mhm.
or whatever. And so there was like a big group of people at the waterfall, and
Okay.
they were watching from there. And in front of the waterfall, there's just this ledge, is probably 2 foot high or 3 foot high, that everybody's just rolling off of. And I was like, oh, whatever. I'm going to lay on the siren. I'm just going to jump this thing. That's when the tailgate came down. I seen it in video.
So it wasn't even a big. I expected it because I was on course, like I've said, and I'm watching. And I'm like, man, he must have got like hit from behind, like
Yeah.
horn, siren, and then he got booted. You let me down a little bit.
Yeah. So like I was ratchet strapping the bedsides up and shutting the tailgate and taking the ratchet strap off, and so you
that way-
couldn't move it.
So that way the latches would hold, right?
Yeah. But the bed's just like, I don't know how does that even happen where it wants to open like that.
Well, I mean, it's how old, and you've
Yeah.
been
That truck's bent and twisted.
ravaging
and everything.
ravaging that thing like it's on
I
a
drive it
bad
like
movie
it-
set.
I drive it like how much it costed me to build it. So makes
Thank God
sense.
for the shed, right?
Yeah.
you really did almost steal it. So you drive
Yeah.
it like stole it. Okay.
Yeah. But that's where the tailgate came down. I ended up finding it in the live feed. You can see it. It comes off and the tailgate just sits
Okay.
down. And after that, me and Jeremy battled it out a little bit, and I got into lap traffic with Brad, and I made sure to get out of his way because he's laps ahead, so there's no point in even trying to get in his way.
Now, one thing I don't remember is, were y'all running with any other classes?
No.
Okay.
We had our own race.
Yeah, because you actually raced on the same day as qualifying, right?
No, same day. Yeah, as a side-by-sides. Y'all raced after the side-by-sides?
We raced first, I think.
No, it was qualifying, then side-by-sides, and then they ran the next day.
Next day morning.
Morning, and then Modified and Legends ran after y'all.
Right.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, okay, that's right.
Yeah, because I rode in 4800 after I raced.
We don't got to brag about it, okay?
Oh, I was so sore. I didn't want to do it, but I felt I wanted to help somebody, so I did.
Right.
But I do think that y'all's class by yourselves, in my eyes, from where I was at, put on a good show because you weren't holding, and this is nothing against the stock class by all means. You weren't holding any other cars back, so I think you weren't worried about being goosed from behind.
Yeah.
Being nerfed, sent off the side of the track. Y'all got to focus on your own race, and with the amount of cars there, in my eyes, I think it made sense and was a good decision to run y'all by yourselves.
Yep. Yeah, no, not just in that instance. I know we're not finished with the race, but what's your thoughts on those 4,600 Broncos being in your class?
I mean, I love it and hate it.
Yeah,
but
why do you love it and why do you hate it?
I don't want the Broncos to go anywhere, and I've heard people say, oh, there needs to be a pro 4,600. Amateur 4,600.
They've tried to do a pro 4,400 and an AM 4,400, and it's never happened.
Yeah,
I don't think.
No, it's been talked about. I don't think it's been tried, but people have tried to push it.
Yeah, they've been trying to push it because you got a guy working. But that's racing for his money.
That's what Legends.
You got a guy that's trying to do a bucket list.
That's what Legends is for.
True.
That's what Legends. Yeah, exactly.
That's where the Legends class more than likely came from.
Yeah,
and it stemmed from that. But I was just curious what your thoughts were on it because you're racing against them and they're light years ahead of your Toyota.
Right.
And not to mention this.
It's also 40 years newer?
42, almost 42 years
okay.
newer, yeah. So I'm pretty sure that I have the oldest vehicle that races all of Ultra 4.
I think you're right. Kyle Seglin may have you in the EV class.
His 4Runner's newer than mine.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
My truck's an 81 and 4Runners didn't come out till 84.
Well, so you look at Olympic athletes and you got, so let's look at sprinters.
Yeah.
And you got the person that it's their first Olympic, and you got somebody that maybe 40 years ago they were in the Olympics and somehow they make it in. There's going to be a significant difference because everything has changed in that amount of time.
Right.
Also, that person is so much younger.
Yeah.
So the technology for vehicles now is that much better than it was when your vehicle was produced in what year?
81.
81. And so your 81 vehicles competing against brand new vehicles that were made specifically by Ford and tested, from what I understand, at King of the Hammers.
Right.
And I would venture to say directly influenced by Ultra 4 racing.
Oh, yeah.
So if anything, it's just showing the progression of four-wheel drive vehicles, period. And I'm not saying that they are always going to beat you because I know at that race – I heard over the race comms that there were issues with those new Broncos going through the water and messing with the electronics.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
The amount of electronics in your vehicle is, I would say, absolutely minuscule.
Yeah.
Compared to that vehicle is almost completely controlled by electronics.
And I had, what ended up hurting me was hitting water too hard. I got some stuff wet.
Okay.
But the difference is I know what I got wet. They are just like,
oh, I got to have a computer.
Yeah, they don't know. I can go out there and start blowing on stuff until it runs again. And
like an old Nintendo game.
Get the Q-tip and swab it out.
Yeah.
But I mean, they do have a little bit of a hurdle with some of the technology that I know some of these racers don't understand. You know, me being coming from an automotive background and working on brand new cars, there's some technology that most people don't even know exists in a car. So I can only imagine a racer that's I'm not saying they don't know, but There's
new
a lot of
technology.
stuff in those Broncos that I bet most people don't even know exists.
No, and I'm in a similar boat. I went to school for this stuff, but the way my path took me was away from the technician side, like doing regular mechanic work, and into more of the custom side. So, like, I understand the theory behind a lot of it,
Right.
but when you actually get down and say, like, if this wire is having an issue here, where do I need to look? Like, I'm going to need to go through some like all data or something and and do some research and scratch my head. But you got someone that does it every day that they can probably be like while they're scratching their butt, and coughing, tell you exactly what to look for. There's a difference. And especially people that they're used to carbureted stuff or a completely one-off vehicle, like, those stock class Broncos are not completely one-off. They're factory built. And
if that Bronco had a problem and they drove it to a Ford dealership, even those guys would scratch their heads for hours and not know where to start.
Actually, no.
Like, no one really knows how to work on it.
I would say the other way around. I would say you have better luck taking it to a dealership and getting it worked on.
I've worked in a dealership, and when a brand new car comes in and no one's ever worked on it yet, we're all just like, oh crap.
Okay.
We're all going to have to get together.
In that instance, I agree. In that instance, I agree. But I even think then you're out of race. You can't figure it out. You should probably have better luck because taking it to a dealership, like, well, let's call Ford real quick. You don't get that chance on the lake bed. So I think there is there's a high risk of doing good, but there's also a high risk of not knowing what to look for if there's an issue.
Having a weird problem that you just can't find. And I do know that Brad had some of the Ford engineers with him at Hammers. And I mean, it would take a team like that to help push something like that through a race, putting a vehicle that is that new through something that it was built for it, but it wasn't meant for it.
Right.
Like, it's not like they fixed everything to make it a race vehicle off the floor.
Right.
True. And I also think that's, from what I understand, that is one of the reasons the stock class was, like I said, one of the reasons was come about. Yes, it is an entry-level class, but it also gives OEMs, and for those of you who don't know, OEMs are original equipment manufacturers. The companies that produce vehicles, Ford, Dodge, Jeep, Toyota, Infinity, Nissan, any of these companies that you can go, like the companies that produce vehicles, you can go and buy a car from a dealership at. That's the OEM. And that gives them an opportunity to bring one of their vehicles out,
showcase it,
like these Broncos, and showcase it. Now, I think it also gives everybody else an opportunity to look at that and say, we might be able to do that better.
Right.
And I think Ford is the first company, and I wouldn't say I'm a Ford supporter. I own a Ford now. And I've always kind of been a Chevy guy, but not on purpose. Just I always kind of bought Chevys. And Ford seems to be, in the history of King of the Hammers specifically, like, there's been manufacturers that have direct supported off-road racing throughout the years in different aspects. But in King of the Hammers specifically, Ford has been the one that has stepped up the most. Absolutely. And I think it shows that Bronco is doing what it's doing in this type of racing, also because they used input from specifically racers from this type of racing.
No, that's true. That's very true. Yeah. So you think it's a good and a bad?
Right.
I got you.
So I think it's, what I like about it is the good part about Ford being involved in my class is they're involved in 4400, but it's not like as relatable,
right?
Manufacturer wise,
correct.
Like Lauren and Vaughn's cars have the Bronco bodies on
and
it, but
a Ford engine.
Everybody's going to say, "Oh, that's just a buggy with skins."
Well,
yeah, it is.
First time I saw their buggies when they first released them. I was like, "That looks like the Gravedigger."
Yeah, but as and I'm saying
it's a fiberglass body on a tube chassis.
I'm saying this from a spectator's view, not even mine. That they're going to look and go, dude, that's a new Bronco. Like, that is a new Bronco right there, racing and winning. And so
to me, puts more eyes on you.
To me, it's bringing more attention to my class. And I don't see other car brands going and saying, "Oh, we want one of these tube chassis with the body on it."
Right.
That's not what we want. I feel like if manufacturers are ever going to give any classes attention, it's going to be stock class. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I'm over here thinking, I see a lot of people complain, and I do get it. It does suck to lose, but at the same time, like, we're all winning together because we're building this class up, and I feel like it's just going to take off like a rocket at some point. And
get your foot in the door, Toyota.
Exactly. And I've already got my foot in the door in this class, and so does everybody else. There's guys with Jeeps and
who's the guy that got fourth, RPM Extreme?
John Schaefer.
Yeah, John Schaefer. He's been running that forever, and his company actually does V8 swaps on Jeeps, but he's still running a 6-cylinder because he can't run a V8. Right. But even that's giving exposure to his business. But I am totally with you where that one company and those vehicles are giving exposure to everything because of people are watching it.
Right. No. And to me, like, I can't think of any other sport or any other type of competition thing anywhere where, like, I say Brad, Vaughn, and Bailey are like professionals, like 100% professionals with 100% professional vehicle with professional sponsors. And then, like, I can come in with nothing and race against them.
And compete right against them.
And, like, you can't do that in anything else. You can't do that in NASCAR. You can't just show up in a shitbox Monte Carlo and race. Like, you can't go to, anywhere and race at my budget against professionals.
Right.
Like, we can race door to door and be completely two different budgets, two different teams, and
and still in the same class,
and still in the same class.
That's very cool. And that's originally the spirit of Ultra 4 and King of the Hammers,
right?
Is you can race against those big guys, and you get the chance to race against them. Like, I got to race against.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I had my PRCA permit, my PRCA permit for bull riding when I was 16.
Let's brag about that.
Yeah, but this is the way to talk about it. I found out that Tuff Hedeman was bucking out in Hinton, Oklahoma at the first PRCA rodeo. I went just for that very fact. I actually got to ride against Buck. Now, I bucked off. He won. Right. But still, it was worth it.
But you still got to directly compete against him.
Yeah, and I got him to sign my damn hat.
It's like you're saying with the Olympics, like professional runner and a 41-year-old runner. Like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I can bring my 41-year-old truck and race against them, and
that's very cool.
And it only takes one water crossing to take that vehicle out, and now you're on the podium.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Your tailgate fell down, and then we're getting back on track now, guys. Tailgate fell down during the race. How'd the rest of the race go for you?
Yeah, so the rest of the race was going pretty good. Me and Jeremy kind of got back into it where we were kind of side by side. He drag raced me and got away, with V8. So I was chasing him, and he got away, and we got back to the Bronco Boulders, which was just this crazy rock section. And in pre-running, I had found what I called like a hero line, and it was like just over the top of these crazy rocks, and they were just ginormous.
But you were just jumping over them?
No, I hadn't went through them yet.
Oh,
and so I was chasing him, and like the big boulders were here, and the burnt-in line was going around them. That no one was really going through them. And so he took that, and I was like, okay. So I just let into it and went across those rocks, and I made the highlight reel of me passing him in that spot because the truck was just bouncing like
tailgate was bouncing off.
Yeah, I mean,
just rock donkeying
along.
Oh
yeah, I knew if I slowed down, I'd get hung up. So I just front diff, back diff, all through the air, and I got around him there, and I was having a blast. So I just ate into it, and I was like, I got away from him for a minute.
Do you know what lap that was on?
Probably three or so, something like that.
Okay.
And I got away from him. I got carried away, and I come around, and there was like a long gravel section where you could just fly.
So after the turnaround, after the Bronco Boulders,
after the
coming
turnaround
towards where I was at the staircase.
Yeah, and then there was a little splash, and then It was more gravel, and then you head to the staircase.
Yeah, you went to the trees.
Yeah. And I hit that splash just hard enough it killed the truck.
Ooh.
And I got it fired up right as Jeremy was passing.
So it was all for nothing.
Yeah, so it was all for nothing. But
well, I guess besides getting on the highlight reel.
right, I got on a highlight reel with being dumb. And
that's usually how it goes.
yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
You did say earlier you like to put on the show.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and I did. And I was so glad someone got that on camera because it was just completely dumb. And I splashed the water and it killed the truck. Get it started. He passes me and I'm chasing him. And like the truck just kind of isn't like running right, but it's like cutting in and cutting out.
Right.
And basically I got around a whole nother lap and got basically back to the beginning of the Bronco Boulders. And it was just you give it any gas and it'd try to die. So it was like just barely moving. And I was like, okay, I'm going to stop before the rocks because I don't want to be stuck in the rocks in the way. And so I stopped and I messed with it and I couldn't really get it running right. And like, I seen the Broncos are come around. I was right. The finish line's here and I'm broke down here, but I got this whole loop to go.
Did you throw out like spike strips to slow them down or anything?
No, I'd throw out pieces of my tailgate maybe.
No,
but yeah,
we'll give it to that. But it was somewhere else.
Yeah, but I messed with it and I got it to where it was running a little better. And I went to take off and it like hiccuped again. And I was just like, oh man, I'm not getting stuck in those rocks. And like, it's going to be a disaster to get me out of. So I was like, I just called it right there. Okay. And I think I ended up 7th because I had put in more laps at faster times than a couple other people that finished more laps than me.
Yeah.
So, or something weird like that.
They could have finished full time and took the checker, but had less laps than you, but you had more laps.
Yeah, I had more laps.
Alan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had, so you were out, say at 3 laps, but they did 2 laps and took the checker, but you still had more laps.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's the way Grand Prix style works. It's confusing because the first race I put on was the Red Dog race. I screwed that up because the way you call the finish line, the checkered, is estimated time of the second to last lap of the leader is the way they do that. And I got it confused and I screwed it up, but we still had a good time. But anyway, now, so you came out 7th. Now, your plan now is you were going to have the buggy in here, the Toyota in here in the shop so we could go around it and talk about it.
It's a truck.
It's still a truck. It's 4,600 stock.
Full frame.
Full
body.
Full body. You're right.
Full Toyota.
Yep.
Yeah. Full Toyota.
Full Toyota. And then, but you're in full out prep for KOH.
Right. Yeah. So I'm prepping for next year. I'll be driving Justin's truck at KOH.
Okay. Gotcha. That's
and
right.
I've already went and prepped his truck completely.
Okay.
So it's just sitting ready to go.
How different is that truck to your truck?
So mine and his trucks are literally the same color. His is tan, mine's tan. Mine's an 81.
Is his the two-tone one?
No,
that's someone has a two-tone one. I'm thinking of.
He used to have one that had olive drab on it, didn't you?
So the doors were painted. When I got the doors for it, they're like spray painted. Like,
oh, okay.
And then I ended up O'Reilly's matching some paint to paint the doors to make it not look so ghetto.
Yep.
But so mine and his trucks, his is an 85, I think.
Okay.
And same motor, same transmission. He's got a Dana 300, which it's a little bit different. The axles are.
Is it 4-to-1 or is it still?
I think so. Gears? It's I think it's 2 something.
So stock gearing.
Yeah, but he's got a Marlin Crawler crawl box.
Okay.
It's 4-to-7 in front of that.
Okay,
so
I
it's
got you.
Probably even lower than my truck.
Okay.
And it's got Toyota axles, but they're Land Cruiser axles, so they're even bigger. The rear's Land Cruiser.
I've never actually seen those in person, but I know a lot of people. That's one of the swaps you want to do is the Land Cruiser axles because they're, for whatever reason, they're supposed to be.
They're huge.
Stronger.
Yeah. So like his diffs are 9.5-inch diffs to where mine are 8-inch. And,
I got you.
I mean, they're huge, and the knuckleballs are even bigger. They're huge. And
you say he has bigger balls?
Yeah, the balls are a lot bigger. But so he's got some nicer leaf springs. His truck is like if I did everything you could do to my truck to make it awesome, is his truck.
Okay.
That's the best way to go in the hardest one-day race in the world.
Yeah, and he's won it twice in that truck. So
okay, so it's been proven also.
It's very proven truck, and he's raced it for I don't want to lie, but it's been a while since like 14 or something like that. A whole bunch of years he's raced it, and he's like a Hammers focused racer.
Did that car run last year there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So he hasn't missed a year, but next year he's going to 4,800. Okay. So I'm going. He really just wants the truck to race.
Are there any safety things that you changed or added?
We had to change some seat belts. I had to move the seat so I could reach the shutoff switches and stuff because I couldn't reach any of the dash.
Good point.
So I couldn't reach the main shutoff, and like his arm is literally like 8 inches longer than mine. It's so I'm like this on the steering wheel.
Don't gotta brag. Okay?
Yeah, but
well, cool. Yeah. Very, very cool. That is neat. You planning on running East Coast or West Coast or whatever works?
So actually, the way it's laid out is there's a lot of West Coast and East Coast that are like kind of the same distance from me. So like
it's crazy living in the middle of the country.
Yeah, it's like actually just right. And there's one race at Jay or Disney. I don't want to be wrong, but it's a West race. So I usually shoot for East, but with Hammers points, I'll have East and West points.
It's Grand Lake, which I don't think they're calling Visions next year. I think they're calling Nationals, not Visions.
I know Visions is time.
I'm correcting myself. Legends of the Fall. I don't think they're calling.
No, the Legends of the Fall is in Havasu.
Yes. Yeah. So they're changing the venue for Legends of the Fall.
Right.
But next year,
there's still a race at Disney.
The race at Disney, at Grand Lake, it's an East and West race. And
not at Disney, no.
It's Visions.
West only. Visions is both. So that's what I'm
saying.
Sorry,
I keep getting Visions and Legends mixed up. Legends is at Havasu, but the race at Grand Lake, I think it's at East and West.
I think it's just West.
Is it?
I think so because I looked and
I thought it was both.
Really, the West almost makes more sense for me, but I'm gonna have, I'm gonna race Rush. That's an East Coast race.
Yes.
So I want to do Rush because that's like my style of race. It's just really hard terrain and it's an endurance race in my opinion.
At KOH, what number are you running?
So I'll have to run Justin wants his number to run. Ooh. So he's 4619. I've went through all the rules with everybody, so I'm going to have to carry 4619 for the rest of the year.
So in that case, you can run. I'm
going to get the points from Hammers.
I would say you're going to be more looking for nationals points than regional points.
Yeah.
For a championship perspective is what it sounds like to me. Correct me if I'm wrong.
But basically, I'm going to go with the flow. I want to do Rush, so I'm going to do Rush. The Montana race, I'd love to see Montana, let alone race there. So
it looked because they ran it last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it looked awesome.
Yeah, like open pasture, dirt fire road
flat
type
pedal
race.
The whole thing
looks like a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to do that. Visions, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's right there.
It's
by
next
home.
door,
and it's both East and West points. So then again, I get points, and then basically I can just kind of do what I want as far as East or West points goes. Because I'm going to do Hammers, and that's both. Mm-hmm. And then I'll do Rush. It's East only. But then when we come down here to Grand Lake, it's West. So I'm going to do that too. So I'll kind of be split down the middle to whether. So basically, I'm racing both series.
You could be running for nationals. I mean, national point. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, because nationals, you have to run all three nationals races, right? You don't.
Right.
So Havasu's on the books too.
Yeah,
it's a long ways away.
So I would say, from what it sounds like to me, your best bet is not to go after East or West. It's nationals points.
Right.
It is. Because you're kind of down the middle. Almost.
Yeah, right. I'm right down the middle on all of it. Sweet. And, I would love to do Crandon just to drive that old-ass truck around the Crandon racetrack would be awesome to me.
Just to see Cowboy go past pointing at everybody with...
he died. He passed away.
I didn't know.
Yeah, he passed away a couple years ago.
Well,
so they got another guy.
Rest in peace, Cowboy.
Yeah.
Because that was one of those historic things. But still, just to see the starter point and get the thumbs up
Land
from
Rush
you.
start's crazy.
Yeah.
That's just, it's a crazy deal.
Yeah, it's fun.
You're talking about Land Rush start. What'd you think about whenever you ran the 918 race? What'd you think about the starting of that? Did you do the weird
Yes,
starting?
I
The
did.
Grand Freestyle start.
I did, and it was really cool. And that was actually a really cool thing. So you had to be dead engine
Mm-hmm.
and
Strapped in and everything.
yeah,
but you're
strapped
in, the
in,
car.
ready to go. And when I think they were going to do a run to it, and so I had already trained for hammers. You know, I started running a couple miles
Yeah.
a day and got better and better and better.
Because
And
you might have to run.
You
You
got
might have to jog 10
You
miles
want to
at
get some
KOH.
exercise before
Yeah.
you go to hammers.
Yeah, I
it's
know.
for sure.
Jason Shearer is a big CrossFit guy, and he sticks it on. Even Derek back in the day,
Yeah.
he started doing CrossFit hardcore because he
Yeah.
knew hammers was coming up.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you're strapped in, you're ready to go.
Yeah, so we're strapped in, and it's start your vehicle and take off, and they shot off this ginormous fireball. And I got lucky, and I watched the UTV guys go because it was kind of confusing. They had like some fireworks, and then the fire went off, and like some poor guys were kind of sat there not ready.
Like,
and then,
not sure if that was the go point.
Right. So
Okay.
whenever it come time for us, it's like, okay, as soon as that fireball goes off, I'm going. Like, whatever. I don't care if they give me some time or whatever. Like, I'm going to go as soon as I think it's time to go. So little Toyota, you stick that sucker in first gear and you hit the start button and it takes off while it starts. So I was like the third person gone.
Okay.
Which was terrifying after I got there because then everybody's
chasing you
right past me. But yeah, I took off really fast for, because
that's
it
awesome.
starts fast. It doesn't even have a revolution and it's running. So
nice. All right.
I would love to do that again. It was fun. And I'd even love to get it to it where it's, real Grand Prix where you run to get in, helmet, strap, and go.
King of the Motos did that for a few times, and that was impressive.
But that's also you're not strapped into
a moto.
Yeah. So I would say it'd be awesome, but you'd have so many guys not strapped in away.
Correctly.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
And that's where we talked about a little bit on the last episode. I believe that's how Indy 500 started. Mm-hmm. Like they'd have all the cars sitting there, they'd run to it and get started, and then as everything progressed, and you had seatbelts and stuff, guys aren't strapping in.
Right.
So I would say yes, it'd be cool, but on the other hand, safety wise, I don't think it would work because you'd have that guy that's like, oh crap. Someone's already taken off and he's got like 3/4 of his harness done, and then he forgets to harness in the whole rest of the race.
Right. No. All right. Off that tangent, back into it. We've already figured out everything here with next year's schedule.
Right.
Hope the best for you, man. 4,600 is going to be, it's a tough class and it's fun. And you're following in old Cody Addington's footsteps right now. You're the modern day Cody Addington. Shout out to you, Cody, if you're listening.
Yes, but, I didn't think about that, but yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what Cody was. It's probably
my
the
truck's
one and
even
only.
older than his.
Yeah. So anyway, now you can't do this alone, obviously. Who do you like? Who do you want to thank? I mean, I know you've got family, friends that help you with it. I mean, even some sponsors. Let us know who those are.
Even a company that's cut you like a good deal.
Yeah. So really, my truck has got a lot of hand-me-downs on it. The tires are wheels and tires hand-me-down from Justin Reese. The winch is a hand-me-down from Derek West. The seats, I don't remember who gave them to me, but somebody gave them to me.
But still used.
Yeah, still used. There's a ton of parts on there it's all hand-me-down, everything. But guys like that are really what helped me out, and I can't be happier with the way the racing goes because we take my girlfriend, she comes with me, and our kid comes with me, and she helps me as much as she can. And, it's a lot of work to get a hotel and all that while you're driving. And, she's always jumps in and takes care of that.
Takes that load.
She's the navigator. Yeah. Nice.
The manager.
The manager. Yeah. And, there's that. And Justin Reese is really going to help me out for next year by giving me a ginormous head start and having a whole different truck for hammers and then being able to come home to my ready to go truck for the season.
Yeah, I'd say that's a big deal.
That's a huge deal.
Because you don't have to re-prep.
Right, I don't have to re-prep. I got to fix what I broke on his truck, which is going to be in the back of my mind at that whole race.
But don't let that hold you back too much.
Oh, it will.
Ooh. But you already said you want to put on a show, so I'm expecting that.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I'm basically joining up with him for the whole 2023 season. He's got a group of, there's 2 other 4,600 guys, and their 4,800 car, and we're going to kind of team up all together. I joined their team basically, so it'll be nice to have some guys to rely on and some guys to help. And
good deal.
So
other than that, man, we appreciate it. Thanks for coming down. You're about 2.5 hours from here, and came down, did some Christmas shopping in Oklahoma City, and you're in the hometown of old little Noble, Oklahoma. Yeah. My little studio. Hopefully it worked out. Man, I appreciate it, Mick. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank you.
And
good luck next year.
Nice meeting you again. After I got to the first time I met him, the tailgate that was flopping at Nationals, I actually found the top of it in some boulders by the part of the course I was at, and I recognized the color, and it took me
the only thing that's tan.
It took me a little while to walk through at Disney where all the cars were stacked up on Main Street, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, it's that Toyota truck over there," and I finally found you, and I was like, "I don't know if you want this or not," and you looked at it like, what am I supposed to do with this?
I wanted it back because I want to try to put it back together.
And I hope it gets back on, or at least on the wall somewhere.
Oh yeah.
All right, and I got one more thing. We got a free koozie right here, 4681 from Mick Henson. If you comment in any of the comments that you can actually comment, any of the platforms, if you comment 3097, I'll mail this to you.
Should he sign it?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Yeah,
we'll get it signed.
That'd be good. So that way, whenever he gets into a blue dragon or orange dragon or one of Shannon Campbell's old cars and starts winning everything, now you've got
some memorabilia.
Because it seems like guys that transition from the stock class Toyotas end up doing pretty good.
Yeah, Cody's doing good right now.
So
of course he's West Coast boy, but still,
I'm going to envision that you're going to do the same thing, because you seem driven, you seem on your game, you know where you want to be. And you have a goal, and that means a lot in your racing within your means.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you get an opportunity. I think you're going to go a long ways.
Yep.
And I'm glad that I got to be a part of you being on the show.
Sweet.
Cool.
Yeah.
3097. Comment it below, and you'll get this koozie first person. Guys, have a good day. This is Hitch, Seth, and Mick saying, see you on the trail.
Let's go.